Oh, I'm back in the desert. I am in Paria Canyon Vermilion Cliffs National Monument. Behind me is the Paria River, and I'm about to begin my trip down the namesake Paria Canyon. This trip is going to be a lot like Spring Canyon, which I did in Capitol Reef National Park. Sort of just going to follow this canyon down. There's no official trail, but it shouldn't be too hard to find my way because there's not a whole lot of places I can get lost. Just going down the canyon. May get wet a bit depending on how high the water flow is. I'm not sure what's normal, so I can't tell if this is a lot of flow or not. Overall, I'm not really sure what to expect. It's a gorgeous day. I've been told it's good conditions, whatever that means. In total, going to be hiking about 4 days and 45-ish miles from White House Trailhead to Lee's Ferry at the other end of the canyon. Should be a fun adventure. Let's get started. So you may notice throughout this trip as well that I'm wearing different shoes than I normally do. These are just running shoes I found in my closet. Never actually really used them. Hopefully they don't give me any kind of foot problems. But I chose them to sacrifice to the river gods because I had read that there's a lot of slogging through water and I didn't want to completely ruin my hiking shoes proper because I need to use those just a couple days after this trip for another trip. Just look at the color of that water. Not exactly Yosemite-esque. Quite the opposite. All that silt from the sandstone. As you can see, the route from White House Trailhead is quite open, but it will slowly close up until it's very nearly a slot canyon in what's called the Paria Narrows. Okay, first time going through the chocolate milk. Only had to get it a little bit wet. Never has chocolate milk looked so unappetizing. So I'm about 3 miles in. I'd say I've crossed the creek now about 40 times. I'm getting used to it. I'm really enjoying the sandstone though. The walls aren't super high, maybe only a couple 100 feet, but just look at the layers that were laid down. I'm not sure what that is. So the canyon is starting to slot up a little bit more. It's getting tighter. Very stark contrast between the shadows and the sun right now. It's been very muddy and or wet. And I think I found some quicksand. I stepped right there, but quickly had to remove my foot. I think you'd get sucked right into that if you put your weight on it. Hardly putting any pressure. Oh yeah, it's getting narrow. Just walking down the Chocolate River for many miles. So far it really hasn't narrowed up as much as I thought it would, but still quite pretty. Alright, it's starting to get a little tighter here. Still not amazingly deep, but I'm enjoying my walk through the water. So I'm getting quite familiar with the Paria River, which is usually only about ankle deep or less. And I'm actually finding that it's sometimes better to just walk in the water as opposed to on the land, because it's so muddy by the side of the river that it's easier walking in it, even though you kind of have to get used to being wet all the time. Thing is, the water really isn't that cold though. It's kind of pleasant, to be honest. So I've made it to the fabled slide rock arch, which is pretty neat. It's probably a good 75 feet tall, so although it's hard to tell out here, I think I'm going to take a little walk through the archway. Alright, well this part of the slot is a lot cooler. Wow. Alright, this is kind of nice. Up until here I was kind of unimpressed with the canyon, to be honest, but getting a little tighter, getting a little more sheer. Okay, I'm about 8 miles in and I've reached the Confluence. That's the way I came. Up the other fork is Buckskin Gulch, which is purportedly one of the, or maybe even the longest slot canyon in the world. And then downriver continues Paria Canyon, which is the direction I'm going. Alright, it's only 3 p.m. and the sun sets at 8, just about. And I only have about 3 miles left to hike to where my intended first campsite is. So instead of hanging out at camp for 3 to 4 hours, I think I might take a little bit of a side jaunt up Buckskin Gulch. See how it is. I'm going to don a mask because even though it's a little bit breezy in here, it gets rather tight, and I know that people day hike in there. So it's been pretty open until now. Pretty much the same as the Confluence, but I believe it's about to get tighter. Quite low light in here. Alright, I think this is where I'm going to choose to turn around. Don't think I got to the tightest part of the slot, but this is still pretty epic. And it's a bit too crowded for my liking. Passing a few people. Nobody's wearing masks, of course, and it's real tight in here. So I'm going to turn back. Beautiful sandstone waves. So I've clambered up to this little ledge. Quite a nice view of this more open area of Buckskin Gulch. Beautiful walls. Probably could even camp up here if you wanted to. And just like that, I'm back at the Confluence. Got 3 miles left to go until I get to my campsite, and I've got maybe about 3 or 4 hours to do it. Ah, Paria River, how I missed you. I was gone for a whole hour and almost forgot how nice it is to be in your chocolatey water. Also, I feel like I'm not really sure what I've been saying. I've been meaning to say Paria River and Paria Canyon, but I think I may have been saying Paria a lot. I wasn't really sure for a long time which pronunciation was correct. Then I watched a BLM video on the canyon, and they pronounced it Paria Canyon. But my puny mind can't seem to catch on and eject the familiar word pariah and take on the unfamiliar word paria. So I may say it multiple ways. Check out that alcove. Probably a good 100 feet tall, 50 feet deep. It never stops. River walking. I think I'm almost to my intended campsite. Maybe just a couple more corners to go. Okay, I've set up my tent, and it's a nice site. I'm underneath this cottonwood tree. There's plenty of space, and I've got a little bit of privacy too, because I know that people are going to be walking by, other backpackers or even day hikers perhaps. I've got some foliage between me and them, as well as some pretty nice views. I'm actually surprisingly tired. I was pretty pooped out the last couple miles there. Part of it was just the slog of going through the river, wet and cold, and it just slows you down. I hiked in total about 13 miles, give or take, and now I've got a couple hours until sunset, so I'm gonna chill out, eat some dinner. My feet are totally waterlogged. Surprisingly not muddy. Walking in the river did kind of clean off the mud that I picked up when I was walking on the banks. Thankfully, brought a towel with me so I can dry off a bit. Definitely necessary. I'm like, would not dry off very quick on my own. And lastly, to warm up a bit more, a hot meal. Alright, it's about half an hour till sunset. I'm winding down here. I'm pretty tired. Probably going to sleep pretty early tonight. Today was a pretty good day. Quite tiring, unexpectedly so. I'm really reminded of Upper Spring Canyon. Just a very similar type of environment, but not quite as grand as Upper Spring Canyon yet, and a lot more wet. I wouldn't say that I'm totally blown away yet by the canyon, but I am still enjoying my time out here quite a bit. It's supposed to get down to about 30 degrees tonight, so I'm hoping that my socks don't freeze and that they instead dry out. We'll see what happens. Anyway, good night. I'll give you one last look of my view I've got, and I will see you tomorrow morning. Good morning, although I can barely say it's morning anymore. It's 11 a.m., really slept in. Also just kind of hung out in my tent for a while because it got below freezing last night. I have about 10 miles that I want to hike today, but given my pace yesterday, I can do that in maybe 6 hours. So if I get going around 11 right now, I'll get to camp at 5, which gives me 3 hours to hang out. So I'm taking it slow this morning. I waited until the sun kind of crested the canyon, and I'm hoping that makes the water a little less frigid. Already my camp is a lot warmer than it was in Shadow, so we'll see how it is. So here's the little map that they give you at the BLM Ranger Station when you check in. I started yesterday at the White House Campground and Trailhead, and I went about 11 miles down the Paria River to that camp spot right there. Eventually I'm going to make it all the way to Lee's Ferry in the bottom right of the map, but until then, today, I'm going to go to Big Spring and fill up some water, and then hopefully make it all the way to Paria Canyon. Also want to note that this canyon is sort of hourglass shaped. As you saw yesterday, it started pretty wide up here at White House Trailhead, and then narrowed down to where I am now, and I think it's going to begin opening up until it gets quite wide down again at Lee's Ferry. So, shaped like an hourglass, which, I don't know, maybe is appropriate. I am surrounded by the sands of time. Okay, I'm all packed up and ready to get wet. This was a nice spot though. I'm enjoying it quite a lot more in the morning here than I did last night. Well, it didn't take long. Up there's my camp, or where it was. And already it is time to walk in the water. Here we see together two of the more dominant features throughout this canyon. All these slots that form, I'm not exactly sure how, probably just flash floodwater eroding away existing joints. And then alcoves, which have been pretty stunning. Again, it's hard to capture the scale of all this, but I would say the slots here are about 100 feet tall. Alcove maybe 150 feet, and the walls in total are, hard to say, 300 to 500 feet. Really cannot be captured. This is that same alcove. Just wow. You can also see what must be the water line for how high the water gets during like flash floods and such. That lighter colored threshold there, which is probably about 6 or 7 feet off of the current riverbed. That's a lot of water. But you can see it continues all along. So I'm assuming that's the high water mark. See, now I wish I knew more about geology. I mean, especially about sandstone geology. I know quite a bit about granite. But these two little, I don't know what to call them, tiny alcoves, they've got that sediment built up in them. And I don't know if that's been deposited by where the previous level of the riverbed was, or maybe if that's just how it was laid down as a sand dune or at the bottom of a sea. I'm not sure what this sandstone originated as. And it just happened to be softer in those two pockets and of a different composition. Also, I'm wondering kind of how deep this canyon could get. How far down does this sandstone, I don't know, deposit go? I mean, it must continue down. At one point, the riverbed must have been, say, halfway up the wall. That is one thing that I find when I'm out here compared to, say, in Yosemite. I feel I appreciate Yosemite a lot more just because I know a lot more about the history, about the geology, the flora, the fauna. Here things just aren't quite as, I don't know, they're grand, but I miss some of the fascination that you get from knowing the deeper implications of what you see. That's the way ahead. But there's a cool side canyon here. Kind of neat. So because I think I have some extra time, I'm going down a bit of a side canyon here. Just checking it out. So, got a couple obstacles ahead and pretty deep sand. I think I'm going to take my pack off and continue that way. Pretty cool pockets. Gonna have to get up that somehow. I've made it up. Let's explore. So maybe 50 yards into the canyon. You could probably camp here, honestly. Pretty cool walls though. Now kind of scaling a debris field. Who knows what lies beyond? Well, actually I know. More rocks. Scrambled up this little debris field. It is noticeably warmer up here. Nice little alcove. So it looks like it actually loops back around to the main canyon. Here's that alcove. Made it to the other end, and I am at the Paria River. I'm pretty sure this is something I got on film before. I was like, oh wow, look at that, a side canyon. Definitely would not be able to ascend, or for that matter, descend this side of the side canyon. But I recognize that alcove, at least from this angle. Alright, I'm back at where I came from. There's my pack down there, and I'll show you how I got up. Quite slippery there. Okay, I'm back out of the side canyon. Now I need to find Big Spring, which should be in maybe just under a mile. I am in need of water. Aha! I think I've located Big Spring. Oh yeah. Look at that. Beautiful. You can hear it coming out of the rock. These hanging gardens. Oh yeah. Beautiful. I'm in the process of filling up water. Over here though, it's coming right out of the ground. It's very cool. Alright, I'm all filled up. I'm going to continue down Paria Canyon. It's currently about 2 p.m. and I've only walked 2 miles. So, not a great pace. However, I don't really have that much to do today. Only about 6 more planned. And I've got plenty of daylight. Also, I've got to say, I definitely brought the right shoes for this trip. With these, when you take a step, it basically squeezes all the water out of them. And you're still wet, but at least you're not waterlogged down like I would be with my hiking boots. Every turn brings something new, usually some kind of alcove. Check out the buildup of debris at the base of those trees. That's got to be remnants of a flash flood. That's really high water. That's pretty incredible. That's like 6 or 7, maybe 8 feet of water from where I'm standing. Alright, so Paria Canyon has become quite impressive. These are big walls, and it's very narrow, at least in comparison to Spring Canyon. Surprised to see some cute ducks. I keep trying to get close to them, but they're scared of me. Don't be scared. I just want your picture. This has got to be the biggest alcove yet. The one that these ducks are under. Well, maybe not tallest, but at the very least the deepest. God damn. Big walls. What a place. You know, yesterday I just kept comparing this to Upper Spring Canyon, and it really doesn't compare anymore. Same kind of sandstone, but just much bigger. Amazing. Now, Lower Spring Canyon, different story. It's very similar in scale and style, just a different color of rock. So for about a mile now, the walls have been less steep and less tall. It also suddenly got very cloudy. The sun is right there at the top of the frame. nearly missed this. It's the remains of, I don't know, some old pump of some sort. I'm not sure what era it would be from. It doesn't look that old. Maybe I'll have to look that up later. Getting even cloudier. Oh, I'm ready to be done with chocolate milk for the day. At long last, I've found the place where I'm going to camp. This is clearly a spot that no one's camped at for quite some time, as there's a lot of undisturbed sand, but it's a neat spot underneath this sort of overhanging cliff with sort of amphitheater of rock around. I'm going to set up camp. It's nearing 6 o'clock, so I've got about an hour and a half left of sunlight. Okay, so I've got my map here and I'm going to show you what I did today because it's a little bit different than what I said I was going to do. So I began today at that dot that I put on the map right there in the center, and my plan was to make it all the way to Rather Canyon, which is where that 6 is. But there are 2 other parties that are also hiking down the canyon with me with about the same itinerary, and I'm assuming that they're going to want to camp at Rather Canyon because that's kind of the place to camp. So instead of going all the way to Rather, I instead stopped a little bit short of there, and I camped right where that 3.0 is. So that made it a little bit of a short day, both in the amount of time that I hiked and the distance that I went. Tomorrow I want to do the opposite. I'm going to try to sort of leapfrog the people who are now ahead of me. I'm going to get started early and hit up Rather Arch in the morning. And then after that, I'm going to continue down as pretty much as far as I can. I need to fill up water at Shower Spring because I don't trust last reliable spring there. And I have to go all the way down to, well, past where the map ends there. Which, if I camped, say, right here at where the 10 is, would be approximately 10 miles. But I kind of want to make day 4 a short day. So I'm just going to go as far as I can tomorrow after filling up water. The plan then hopefully is that I don't end up overlapping too much with those 2 other parties because they both have like 4 or 5 people in them and don't want to be around other people in close confines. Anyhow, that's it. I think I'm going to go to bed. It is at the moment about 7:30, although it's been kind of dark for a while due to the clouds. So I have 20 more minutes of sunlight, and then I'll be trying to get some rest. Good night. See you tomorrow morning. Good morning. It is day number 3, and a long day ahead I have. Beautiful campsite though. Wish I could spend longer here. Today I'm basically just going to walk as far as I can. I'm not sure exactly how far that'll be. May depend on kind of how much of a slog it is. Yesterday was quite the slog. We shall see. Alright, I make my return to the Willy Wonka Chocolate River. Time to get wet. The water is a lot colder than it was yesterday in the afternoon, which is unsurprising. However, last night was really warm. I didn't really have to wear much of anything besides one base layer. I guess it got to around 50 degrees, whereas the first night got to around 30. It's gonna be hot today. It's about 10 a.m. I'm nearing Paria Canyon, and it's already quite hot. My feet are freezing just walking through this river, but everything else is quite warm. Okay, after about a mile of just straight up river trudging, I found the junction to go into Paria Canyon, where hopefully I'm going to find Paria Arch. Doing quite a bit of bushwhacking. Not really sure how far I need to go, but it's beautiful. Well, at last, there it is, Paria Arch. I'm gonna head up to it now. Okay, I've come all the way up, and I'm here at Paria Arch, which, wow, can't really be captured. I'm on the widest angle millimeter I can get, 18 millimeters, and it can't capture all of it. Can't be captured. Let go! Here's the view down canyon. I started from underneath that wall back there, so it's a proper side trip. I think that now I'm going to go down underneath the arch, see how it looks from down there. I've made my way down to the other side. Here's another view of the arch. It is enormous. Cannot be captured how huge it is. Alright, I had my fun here. I need to get some water. It's getting hot. I think today the high is supposed to be just above 80 degrees. Back to bushwhacking. Found some friends too. I'm glad they gave me some space so I can get through. It's a pretty narrow canyon, and these guys would mess me up. Alright, I'm back at the Paria River. Time for more chocolate milk and hopefully a spring. Quite the vista of rock around me right now. kind of up on a riverbank away from the Paria for a minute. Back that way is where Rather Arch was. Gosh, these cottonwoods are amazing. Just beautiful. Trying to find Shower Spring right now. I'm at the end of that Cottonwood Canyon. I think I hear it. This looks promising. Okay, I'm here at Shower Spring. They really should call it Bath Spring though, because I'm up to my knees in this rather silty water. I'm not sure where I'm going to put my pack. I think I'm going to have to ferry back and forth from over there. Ooh, it's slippery. That is deep and cold. Okay, I successfully filled up water from what I'm going to call Bath Springs. It is amazing though how comfortable I am with this nasty looking water at this point. That's kind of just what I'm living in. So it's about 1 p.m. and I want to see how far I can get today. I'm hoping to get in maybe another 10 miles. I've done about 5.5 so far, but only maybe 2 of that was actually along the Paria River. That also was pretty much my last water source for this trip, and I'm hoping I don't run out. It's getting pretty hot out here, and I have approximately 24 hours and 15 to 17 miles left. And as I said, the canyon is rather hourglass shaped, so there's not going to be a whole lot of shade coming up. This is a wow. Huge wall. Can't be captured, as always. God, I can't stop taking pictures of these things. It's so beautiful. It's so huge. There's the Paria. I've been up above it to the right for quite a while now. It's almost 7 p.m. I'm gonna need to find a camp spot at some point. God, I can't stop saying wow. Down there in that canyon is the Paria River. And, well, wow. I'll say it again. So I turn a corner, and wow. It just doesn't let up. Look at this valley. This is what I'm going to be going down tomorrow. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Really wish I could camp here with this view, but there's nowhere to camp without busting the crust, so on I go. You can see the path down there. Still looking for a campsite. I finally found a place to camp. Oh, I am exhausted. So let me tell you about a couple of those miles I did today. They were all beautiful, but they were not all easy. I had a couple of mishaps. The first one being I was crossing the Paria, and it was kind of a quicker, rapidsy part of the river. And as I'm trying to cross, the rocks are kind of wet, and all of a sudden it gets really deep, like maybe up to my mid thigh. I was taken completely by surprise and sort of fell over part way. Got part of my pack wet, got wet up to past my waist. I think you can hear a bat out there. There have been bats flying around. I've been enjoying them. Anyway, I didn't really mind getting wet myself because it was pretty hot, but what got wet as well was my camera, and that's not okay because it's not exactly waterproof. And I was really scared for a moment that it would have been just toast, and then I wouldn't be able to film anymore, and plus it's quite expensive. So I quickly break out my towel and I'm drying off the camera, and in doing so I take off all the accessories, including my microphone that I have, and I kind of put them around on the ground and just frantically trying to wipe the camera down. Luckily the camera's okay, but I ended up hiking about half a mile more with scrambling and river crossings and everything, and then I realized, oh crap, I forgot my microphone back there on the rock. So I had to go all the way back to get my microphone. That added a good mile. And then the second mishap, besides almost destroying my camera and then having to add a mile because of it, was I was filming right above a gorge that the Paria runs through, and I went to put my lens cap back on, and of course Butterfingers Eric dropped the lens cap and it tumbles down the side of the ravine, probably a good 150 feet down. And I go and detour all the way down and find my way to the bottom of the Paria, bottom of that ravine, search all over to try to find the lens cap, and I could not find it. So I'm now without a lens cap. I'm just going to try to keep my front element as clean as possible and not scratch it from here on, and then hopefully in between now and my next trip I'll be able to get a new one or figure out some kind of replacement. Anyhow, both of those misadventures involving my camera probably added a good 2 miles to my day, making it a 15-mile day. And I am pooped. On top of all that, my left foot has been bothering me since maybe around noon. I'm not sure what it is. I thought for a moment it might be plantar fasciitis, because it's really hurting me when I plant my foot down. But I think it might actually have to do with the muscle on my left side of my left foot. I think it might be cramping up or something. I'm not sure. So hopefully that doesn't get any worse. It's already been pretty unpleasant the whole day. Anyhow, enough talking. I'm going to go to bed. I'm really tired. I'm going to try to get up early tomorrow and get hiking before it gets too hot again. I've been told by other hikers that there's a saying on the PCT, 10 before 10, trying to hike 10 miles before 10 a.m. And while I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do that, besides the fact that I only have 7 miles to go, I'm going to try to mimic that mantra as much as possible. Good night. See you in the morning. Well, good morning. It is about 8 a.m. Definitely would not achieve my goal of 10 before 10 at this rate, but it's early enough. I've got about 7+ miles to go until Lee's Ferry, and I'm ready to be done, so let's get moving. I'm trying to film these bats that have been flying around since last night, but they're really quick. It's kind of hard to get them on film. And about 10 minutes into the day, back at the Chocolate River. Sorry, dry feet. Oh, and it's cold this morning. Woohoo. Yep. Here's the view back up canyon. So right now I'm kind of hopping across these boulders with these big fissures in them. It would make for a pretty cool camp spot actually, up here. Cool stack of rocks, maybe about 25 feet tall. And cool walls, maybe about 2,500 feet tall. Got about 3 miles to go, and it's getting hot. I am ready to be done. Oh, and by the way, don't think that just because most of the shots I've taken so far have been from up above the river means that somehow I haven't been crossing the Paria a bunch. I have, I just haven't been filming it. This is probably my, 40th crossing today. About 1.5 miles to go. I'm not sure what kind of bird that was, but it was huge. Here's some remnants of an old ranch, I'm assuming. There's an outhouse, and just past it, behind that cottonwood, is what looks to be a barn or a house. It's a very small one. Don't really have the energy to check it all out, but I hope they enjoyed the heat. And there's a trailhead register here. Get out if you can. Well, I'm trying to get out right now. I am almost there, about half a mile, just as it's getting truly hot. It's hard to believe I started like 40 miles that way. Oh, and there's Dad, right next to that very out of place bulldozer thing. Alright, at long last, I am at Lee's Ferry with Papa Meyer once again.
Old Man Meyer picks him up.
Old Man Meyer coming through. It was a pretty incredible trip. Definitely blew me away many times over. There were maybe 10 miles of it that were just absolute slogs. Not fun through there, but it made the rest of it worthwhile. Or rather, even more impressive. Any last words?
No last words.
No last words.
Other than this is an incredibly beautiful place. I'm really surprised. Vermilion Cliffs. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So you were in it, but I'm just sort of the touristy area, but it's still incredible.
Yeah. Yep. All right. I'll leave you with this porta potty. See you later.